Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session of Wellness Wednesday. Today, we will be talking about optimal nutrition and Parkinson's. And today we have Jennifer Youse from Jennifer Youse Wellness Solutions. And she is a certified holistic nutritionist and exercise physiologist. And she will be talking to you all today about nutrition. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. You'll see that today's session is being recorded and will be available for review later on our YouTube page. And also, if we have any questions throughout the session, feel free to use the chat box function as a parking lot for any questions, and we will have a Q&A section at the end of today's presentation. But without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Jennifer whenever you're ready.
Can you all hear me now? Okay, I guess I got muted when everything got muted. Sorry about that. Thank you all for coming today. So our topic today is nutrition, and more specifically nutrition for Parkinson's disease. And I am going to give you a quick Cliff Notes version, a little bit about me so you know who is talking at you today. I got my master's degrees in exercise physiology and then holistic nutrition a long time ago. And I worked with typically I worked with a more senior population. And over the years, I pivoted the work that I did to align more with people with Parkinson's. And if you see the last piece on my screen here, parents with Parkinson's, my dad had Parkinson's and I lost my dad in 2016, and my stepmom now has Parkinson's. So I live the life. This is a family, it's kind of a family disease, and that is what I feel kind of makes me a little bit more of an authority on this. I have the honor of teaching the Dance for Parkinson's class every week here in the Charlotte community, and I am Parkinson's Wellness Recovery also certified to teach. So I think I get the most out of the work that I do with people with Parkinson's. So that's just my little Cliff Notes version about me. So when we start off talking about nutrition, Michael Pollan, and a little trivia note here for Michael Pollan. Most of you probably know Michael J. Fox as kind of a champion for Parkinson's, and his wife is Tracy Pollan. Tracy Pollan's brother, Michael, is a guru on nutrition and healthy eating. So I have a quote from him here: "Eat foods, not too much, mostly plants. If it came from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't." So you'll hear me talk about long nutrition labels during our chat today. And if you pick up a box and you turn over the box and you have a list of ingredients this long in that food, odds are it's a very processed food with a lot of not so good stuff in it. So if we think back to our ancestors and how they used to eat, they didn't have all of these things to add to their meats and vegetables and fruits. So kind of getting back to basics. So I just need to keep moving things around on my screen where boxes are just so I could see my slides, sorry. So people will come to me all the time and ask me my thoughts on all these different, popular diets out there. The big one I get asked about a lot right now, and people with Parkinson's, because there's some speculative information out there, is intermittent fasting good for people with Parkinson's? I tend not to be the biggest fan of any of the kind of fad things. Intermittent fasting with Parkinson's, my concern is just you all being able to keep up your energy during the day. So if you're going long periods of time without taking in some food for energy, that makes me worry that, are you going to feel a little bit more wobbly, a little bit less stable? Is your blood sugar going to respond negatively? So that's kind of my thoughts on intermittent fasting. Paleo, keto, all of the kind of super high protein diets, low carb is a big one, gluten-free. Really, unless you have a reason for being gluten-free, the general population typically does not need to follow a gluten-free diet. There are exceptions to that, but for the most part, it is all the different food groups in moderation. Vegan is, now I happen, self-disclosure, I happen to be a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian since my teens, 30 something years. But I don't necessarily tell people that they need to eat vegetarian. That's just what I do. I feed my family meat, but that's what works for me. So we're going to give the very basics of a science class. Your nutrition basics, micronutrients. So these are things you need in small amounts, all of the different vitamins and minerals. And you'll hear me talk about them throughout the presentation where they come in with different foods. Your macronutrients are kind of like the things, the building blocks on your plate that you think about, the proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Alcohol is another one. It's a kind of off to the side. And water is kind of our last thing, which you will hear me talk about water and the importance of keeping yourselves hydrated. So those macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So again, we'll hear a lot of talk about a low fat diet, a low, just trying to move my box around, sorry, a low carbohydrate diet. So the benefits of all three now, why we need all three. Proteins we need in our body for helping to build and repair our tissues. Those protein carries oxygen in your blood, building blocks for your immune system. Hormones, digestive enzymes. It is important for blood sugar control. When you're eating, it's a great idea in terms of feeling satiated, feeling full for a longer period of time, having a little bit of protein with each meal. That also helps with your blood sugar regulation, as opposed to, having a huge bowl of pasta. Pasta's not bad, but have a little bit of protein with it. Moving over to fats. Fat is not an enemy. I know, over the years, the keeping fat out of our diet kind of was a big trend, but it is needed for energy, hormones, your cell membranes, our brain and nervous system, transporting vitamins, and we get our omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Those are essential, which means we cannot make them. So we need to get them from exogenous sources, from our diet. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about them in a little bit. Carbohydrates, they are typically our main source of energy for our bodies. We have simple and we have complex, ones that break down quicker, take longer to break down. And like I said before, they have a pretty bad rap, but I don't know that they really deserve that. Not all carbs are the same though. If we think back to the old Wonder Bread, that is not a healthy carb. That's not a healthy choice to make. Bread is okay, but a whole grain, whole wheat option as opposed to that refined white flour. So those healthier carbs are digested more slowly, and then they don't give you that rapid spike in your blood sugar. And again, combining carbohydrates with proteins and fats as well kind of helps with regulating blood sugar. So the standard American diet, pretty much represented here. No, kind of a pun, I guess, that it's SAD, SAD. It's marked by typically high intake of red meat, processed meats, prepackaged foods. So back to those foods that have a really long list of ingredients. Candy and sweets, sodas, fried foods, non-organic meats, high-fat dairy products, refined grains. So back to those non-whole wheat, whole grain starches. Potatoes, corn, high fructose corn syrup, high sugar drinks. So Gatorades, things like that. My kids have known over the years, never asked me for a Gatorade unless they ran a marathon. You don't need it. So these processed foods tend to be more inflammatory and lead to other health consequences, which then become comorbidities. You know, during COVID, we learned a lot about comorbidities. They become comorbidities along with your Parkinson's disease. So if we are mindful of, okay, how can we adjust our diet to not contribute towards heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, high cholesterol? Maybe it results in less medication for us to take, things like that. So processed foods, back to my, a long laundry list of ingredients. Deli meat, they tend to have a lot of preservatives in them, cold cuts, hot dogs, things like that, that have a lot of preservatives to kind of keep them stable and not the healthiest pieces of meat. Packaged snacks, chips, cookies, candy, pretzels. Margarine, at one point in time, they thought maybe margarine was healthier than butter, but I would recommend butter over margarine any day. Vegetable oils. So I'll give you some suggestions for your healthier oils to use and cook with, but vegetable oil is kind of just that, vegetable oil, canola oil, those oils which tend to be more processed and more inflammatory in your body. So frozen entrees and meals, those TV dinners, canned soup and broth, very high in sodium, high in salt. If you can make your own, such a difference in what you're going to put in a homemade soup versus all the things that are going to be in a canned soup. And, I also want to recognize that making these things on your own is time consuming. I'm not going to tell you it's not. It definitely is. But, taking the time out to plan, soup is not a hard thing to make. And I think it has a little bit of everything in it. If you can make like a lentil soup that gets your protein in you, it's got some carbs in it, some fat. So planning ahead is the big thing. And I'll talk about that more in the next bit, but trying to stay away from all of the prepared foods, fast foods. I also want to be mindful and speak to the fact that sometimes for you all, preparing foods is a chore. It's hard having to cut all of the vegetables and having to do all of that. So some shortcuts to buy a bagged salad that's all ready to go, that you don't have to cut up as much of that. And to buy, instead of buying a whole butternut squash that you have to peel and cut and all of that, the stores sell a lot of this already packaged, chopped into cubes for you that you could use. So, and again, it tends to be a little bit more expensive. And especially right now with the cost of food, I do recognize that. So with Parkinson's, there isn't really, like, back to that first slide where I was talking about all the different diets. There's not one specific diet that needs to be followed to the letter. General rules are eating a varied diet, eating healthy portions of foods, so that carbohydrate, protein, and fat, all of those in a meal. Eat the right balance of food groups. Eat unprocessed foods, so foods that don't have a huge list. I like to say 5 ingredients. I think 10 is probably a little bit more realistic when you pick up a food item, when you start reading that ingredient list. And if you look at the ingredient list and it's something that you're like, I don't know what that is, and I can't buy it to keep in my cupboard, it's probably a flag. So unprocessed foods, again, like not fast food, not a packaged meal that has everything already in it. Drinking plenty of fluids, water, 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 water all day long. But with Parkinson's, one thing that I do tend to recommend is that you try to drink more of your water earlier on in the day. People that I work with, I will usually tell them to fill up a huge thing of ice water the night before, put it on your nightstand. So when you wake up in the morning, it's ready for you and you can start drinking early on. Because if you're drinking a lot towards the end of the day, unfortunately, that comes with bathroom call breaks at night. And I know everybody tends to be more wobbly at night, but particularly people with Parkinson's. So if you could try to kind of front load your day with that water, that will help to keep those multiple bathroom breaks at night at bay. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about water in just a bit. So 6 portions of fruits and vegetables a day. So that's not 6 fruit plus 6 vegetables, 6 combination. So a little bit of fruit, a little bit of vegetables. So balanced diet overall, back to those comorbidities, kind of can keep all of these other health issues at bay. Helps with constipation, which tends to run along with Parkinson's disease. Low mood, some depression tends to run with Parkinson's. Low bone density and keeping a stable weight. So keeping it simple, the mainstays of your diet, unprocessed, minimally processed foods. So foods in your natural state without added ingredients or additives. So think just a plate with a vegetable on it, a grain on it, and a piece of seafood, a lean piece of chicken, and then cooking with some herbs and spices, some olive oil, garlic. Eggs and milk are fine, great sources of protein. And those whole foods should be the basis of your diet. So antioxidants. So these foods that we're talking about, a lot of fruits and vegetables, thankfully, are high in antioxidants. These are nutrients that neutralize free radicals. And free radicals that's what's going to damage your healthy cells, especially your neurons. So foods that contain antioxidants are going to be protective for your brain. So fruits that are, I apologize, my robot vacuum is going off and I just need to stop it. Okay, sorry. Side show here at home. So fruits that are colorful, purple, red, blueberries, raspberries, they contain anthocyanins, which are well-known antioxidants that are super healthy for our bodies. So taking in plenty of organic, when you can, fruits and vegetables. If anybody is interested, I am happy. I did not include the slide in here, but I have a slide for the kind of clean 15 things that produce that in an ideal world, if you can buy organic, that you should, because they tend to contain the most pesticides. So if you're buying bananas and strawberries, you can buy conventional bananas, not as important to buy bananas organic. Strawberries, however, if you can buy them organic, they tend to have more pesticide residue on them. So if Kiana, even if you remind me, I can send that over. So those nutrients have been shown to help combat inflammation, which is a feature of Parkinson's, and support detox in your body. So eating, again, 6 to 8 portions of fruits and vegetables a day. And I say they're non-starchy because potatoes, corn, those, I wouldn't necessarily consider them vegetables. So increasing omega-3 fats. So omega-3s are polyunsaturated fatty acids. They are anti-inflammatory, which could be very beneficial for the neuroinflammation that comes along with Parkinson's disease. So mood problems also tend to come along with Parkinson's, and there has been some research to show that increasing omega-3s may help with mood. So there was a small placebo control, so that is, they have people who don't know if they're getting the actual supplement or a fake supplement to try, and they try to see, was there an effect? And the people treated with the actual omegas showed a improved mood, reduction in depression. So back to essential, these can only, our bodies do not make these. This can only be, you can only get this through taking foods in. And the richest sources are fish, salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines, trout, anchovies. Now, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat any of these. So chia seed and flaxseed are great ways to get them for people who don't eat seafood. So I made a chia seed pudding the other day, and I even got my 16-year-old daughter to try it. So trying to keep those omega-3s going. Fiber and fluids. So people will ask me a lot of the times about what can they take for constipation. Tends to be a hallmark of Parkinson's disease. There are things you can take, but ideally your diet should be kind of your first line defense against constipation. So fiber is only found in plant foods. So fruits, vegetables. I apologize. I've got a household of 3 dogs, and they're letting you know they're here. Foods highest in insoluble fiber, the healthiest one, are whole grains, brown rice, rolled oats. So not the, in a bag instant oatmeal, but the actual whole oats. Beans, fruits, vegetables, especially ones that have edible skins. So if you have issues with constipation, or just anybody in general, 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day would be best. If you're not used to eating that amount of fiber, if you're not used to eating whole grains typically, it's best to increase gradually. So bloating and gas can happen as your body gets used to the increased fiber. So if you are somebody who has very little fiber in your diet, up it by 5-10 grams every couple of days till you get up to that. And along with fiber, fluids for constipation as well. Without fluid, the fibers remain dry, and that's going to actually make constipation worse. So 6 to 8 glasses of water per day, juices, milk, other beverages, but in an ideal world, really, if you can get as much as you can, as much of your fluid consumption as you can through water. Juices have a lot of unnecessary sugars in them, so water intake as your main source of fluids. Our bodies are 60% water, so water also helps with headaches, helps regulate your metabolism, keep your energy on an even level. And again, back to what I said earlier, if you can front load your day with your water, set that big water bottle, ice water the night before, so by the morning it's the ice is melted, it's a good temperature, and start drinking that early in the day. So really, hopefully by dinner time, you've gotten through your 6 to 8 glasses. Now, if you're somebody who does not drink any water at all, like it's just, I'm going to raise my hand, I'm horrible with water. It is the easiest thing to do. And when I work with people, I'm like, just drink water. It's so easy. I'm horrible with it. So for me right now, I'm working on 2 2 water bottles a day, to filling it up twice. So that's probably like more like 4 to 5 glasses. That's not 6 to 8, but for me, that's realistic. So anti-inflammatory foods. So fighting inflammation is another strategy for keeping your brain healthy. The type of fats you consume can play a role in reducing inflammation in your body. So medium chain triglycerides, you'll hear a lot of people will talk about MCT coffee, that they put the coconut oil in their coffee. Coconut oil contains that specific fatty acid. So you can cook with coconut oil just like you do with olive oil. I use it a lot in baking. If I'm baking and something calls for oil, vegetable oil or butter, I'll use coconut oil. Other anti-inflammatory foods, fishes, back to what we talked about before, salmon, tuna, mackerel. Dark leafy greens, collard greens, kale, spinach, and soy products. Neuroprotective foods, walnuts. They contain omega-3. Again, back to that, the studies that they've done on reducing symptoms of dementia. So maybe 5-10 of them a few days a week if you buy a bag and eat a handful every day, every other day. Ceylon cinnamon, this is a specific kind of cinnamon. I have a bag inside, I should have brought it in with me. It is grown in Sri Lanka, and if you can get organic, but it has shown potential for having a positive influence on neurotransmitter levels and other brain changes that accompany Parkinson's disease. So I use this in my house, and it's a little bit more expensive than the cinnamon that you get in the grocery store, but I buy it off Amazon in a big old pouch. And it's what I'll throw that in oatmeal. I'll throw that in my baking. So it's a specific kind of cinnamon. And cashews. So if you make yourselves a mix between walnuts and cashews and eat a small handful a few times a week, iron, zinc, magnesium in cashews may help boost serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that is linked to your mood, positive mood, and may help with memory loss. So these are fairly easy adds. Again, if you make a mix of cashews and walnuts, just a quick munch on them, get you some good protein and some neuroprotective foods there. Immune boosting foods. So not necessarily anything specific to Parkinson's, but I think we all, especially this time of year, land of colds out there, we want to keep our immune systems boosted. So citrus fruits, grapefruits, oranges, lemons, red bell peppers, broccoli, garlic, and ginger. So if you could use these 2 things to make a stir fry with some lean organic chicken and some broccoli and red peppers, super healthy meal, fairly easy, and not a ton of ingredients. Spinach, yogurt, and yogurt, just be mindful of not the yogurts that are full of sugar, the fruit on the bottom kind. A Greek yogurt tends to be higher in protein. Almonds, sunflower seeds, turmeric, if you can add that into your cooking. Green tea, just that can count towards your water intake if you make a cup of green tea for yourself. Papaya, kiwi, poultry, lean poultry, and shellfish. Okay, vitamin C, water-soluble vitamin, antioxidant, again, like we were just talking about, helps your immune system. It helps, good for your skin, maintain bones, blood vessels. So citrus fruits, red bell peppers, broccoli, strawberries, kiwi, kale, papaya. So still a lot of those foods that we saw even on that last slide. Zinc, you probably heard zinc talked about a lot during COVID again because of the role it plays in your immune system. So your body does not naturally produce zinc. You have to get it through either supplements or food. I always tell people if you can get it from real food, try to get it from real food. And you'll see a lot of these things on multiple lists. So we have garlic, spinach, poultry, all of these things have been on a few of these different lists. So these foods that you're getting, it's not as daunting. You can get all of these different nutrients through a select group of these foods. Eggs, lentils, grass-fed beef, a little bit healthier than your conventional chopped meat that you're gonna find in the store. Pumpkin seeds, so maybe you add pumpkin seeds to that mix that you made with walnuts and cashews. So quercetin, a plant flavanol known for its antioxidant activity and anti-inflammatory, super good for your immune system. Interesting, during COVID, my daughter had to have a surgery and I had her on a quercetin supplement at the time, really trying to keep her immune system going. And when we were in the pre-surgical center, they asked me, what medications and supplements she's on. And she was on quercetin. I told them nobody in this surgery center knew what quercetin was. They were like, huh, what is that? Asking from person to person, I think they thought I was like a witch doctor. So back to a lot of those similar foods again, apples, grapes, raw onion, kale, spinach, berries, broccoli, tomatoes. Vitamin D. So immune function, muscle function, bone health. If you can get out and get 15 minutes of sunshine a day, I will be your biggest cheerleader. I work in an assisted living and I get my people outside any chance I can get. And they know that if there's some sun out there, I'm going to come in and tell them we're getting our vitamin D and we're going outside. I teach some movement classes and I will go wheelchair by wheelchair, taking everybody outside and have them do class out on the patio if we can, because they're going to get their vitamin D. You can also get it through foods, fatty fish, tuna, mackerel, salmon. So you saw those three on a couple of lists. Foods that are fortified with vitamin D. Typically when you buy milk, it'll say vitamin D fortified. Orange juice, when I buy orange juice, I always get the one that it has both calcium and vitamin D in it. Milk, cereals, beef liver. I don't know that many people eat beef liver these days, but it is a big source. Cheese and egg yolks. Egg yolks, I tend to think use the whole egg as opposed to just the yolk. The white has a lot of the protein in it without having a lot of that cholesterol in it. But at one point in time, eggs got a really bad rap for cholesterol, and they're really not a bad food to be eating. So daily diet staples, lean proteins. If you can get chicken or beef that are antibiotic and hormone-free, organic, free range, that is ideal, but I know it's not always feasible. Wild caught fish if you can, wild caught salmon. Fresh fruits and vegetables, frozen or canned, are fine too. And sometimes it's just easier because if you go shopping on the weekend and you're not going to cook something or until the end of the week, having it frozen or canned is so much more convenient. You don't have to worry about going bad in the interim. Canned, just be mindful of sodium content. Frozen, that's usually not an issue with. I buy a lot of like frozen butternut squash, frozen sweet potatoes. It's super easy. Nuts, almonds, walnuts, pecans, Brazil nuts, hazelnuts. Chia, flax, hemp, sesame, and pumpkin seeds. Again, chia and flax being great sources for those omega-3s. Whole grains, Again, non-gluten when needed. If it's not, you're fine with gluten. Oats, quinoa, brown rice, all different options for healthy whole grains. And stable fats, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, sesame oil. So trying to steer away from those oils. Vegetable oil, it's just called vegetable oil, which is usually a combination corn oil, canola oil. So if we look at our plate, we have some protein, vegetable, fruit, and a carbohydrate. I don't know that we necessarily need this glass of milk here. So whole foods as much as you can possibly do. So doesn't necessarily have to be fancy sauces. And, a super simple thing I will make my family is a whole grain pasta with a piece. I'll get some chicken breast, cut it into strips, and some sort of vegetables, broccoli, butternut squash, something like that. And I will just boil up the pasta, put that separate. I'll saute up the chicken in olive oil and put some herbs on it, some garlic, and then do the same thing with that vegetable and then combine it all together. And it is super simple, and it has all those different food groups, and it's not going to be super processed. So being prepared, stocking your pantry with healthy foods. You can't cook healthy if you don't have healthy in the house. So eating better starts at home, trying not to do a lot of fast food. And again, I do want to be honest and mindful of the fact that for some of you, cooking your own food may be difficult. There are some companies that do kind of some partially pre-prepped meals. Some of them are healthier than others. Some of it is processed, but it would be a better choice than going through the Chick-fil-A drive-through. So doing a pantry clean out. So if you have ingredients you pick up a box, it's got an ingredient that is going to get you kicked out of a spelling bee, let's get rid of it. If you don't recognize it in nature, try not to eat it. Look for hidden sugars, things that end in OSE, high fructose corn syrup, avoiding GMOs, genetically modified foods. So having a plan, we know what we should eat, but plan ahead so you can follow that. Meal prep Sunday is what a lot of people will try to do. Sunday, if you grocery shop and prep some of your meals for the week on a Sunday. So chop up your vegetables, go ahead and cook up your proteins so you have them. And again, if I had my protein already cooked, I could just boil up my pasta and add it with my vegetables for my pasta dish. So it gets quicker and easier with time when you get used to thinking this way. Medication and diet. This is something that you need to check with your physician on, but the medication levodopa, which a lot of people with Parkinson's take, is a protein building block. So that competes for absorption with other proteins. So typically your doctors will recommend not eating high protein meals with your medication. So again, this is something that I'm not a physician, you check with your doctor on this. But if you take your medication with a high protein meal, so a big piece of meat, fish, it may reduce how much of that levodopa getting into your system. So avoiding a high protein meal 30 or 60 minutes before or after may be best. And I'm not saying it can't have any protein in it, but maybe not, like I said, a big piece of meat, a high protein yogurt or a high protein shake or something like that, just because there may be competition for absorption between that medication and the protein. And I'll be honest, back when my dad was initially put on carbidopa, levodopa, they never told him about that. I think it's a little bit more, I think it's done a little bit more these days. But ask your physician. So people will bring to me, fava beans, because they contain some amounts of levodopa. The amount of levodopa in fava beans is so minimal, it's probably not going to have an effect. So it's probably not a substitute for your medication. And mannitol, it's an artificial sweetener that they say maybe could play a role. Nothing's been proven, and it also has a lot of gastric side effects. So when people have asked me about that in the past, I defer to their physician, but I don't, I'm not an advocate of the mannitol either. So think of your, not the way we typically think of diet, more of a lifestyle. So the basic premise of better eating, consuming foods the way nature delivered them. So back to if it's a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't eat it. So eating foods closest to their purest form. Okay, I am always available for any questions that you would want to reach out and ask. And yeah, I'm trying to come off of screen sharing. I keep having to move my all the different little boxes around. Okay, I think I'm off screen sharing now. Am I?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great.
Okay. So now we will go ahead and transition into questions, and I'll kick it off. We have a question in the chat box here. So Sheila asked, do you have to eat the skin on salmon to get the omega-3 benefit?
No, you do not.
Okay.
So if you're not a fan of it, that's okay.
Okay. All right, and at this time, I welcome you all. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. You don't have to use the chat box unless you prefer to.
And again, thinking about it in terms of a lifestyle, how can I make these healthy changes every day so I'm not feeling deprived? I am an 80-20 girl. I try to eat healthy 80% of the time. And 20% of the time, I'm going to allow myself to have the glass of wine and the cheese board.
Marcia, did you have a question? I see that you unmuted.
Yeah, I do. Great presentation. The Curcumin, how long can you take that? I've got that from Dr. Mishley years ago.
I'm sorry, what was that? Can you repeat that?
The Curcumin, the supplement.
Oh, the quercetin, yes.
Yeah. How long can you take that?
I like typically to kind of cycle on and off of it and not, like my kids, I give it to them for a couple of months and then I take them off of it. I don't keep them on it, 365. That would be a good question for your doctor though.
Okay. And then anything to help with train of thought, or does that interfere with Exelon?
What was that?
Does that help with train of thought? Any supplements that you would help with train of thought?
Oh, those would be those omegas, back to those walnuts and cashews and all of those. I think you all are going to get that slide presentation. It'll be made accessible to you all, so you can go back and look at those ones. But those neuroprotective foods that I had mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we have a couple of questions here in the chat box. So the first question is soy or almond milk better for you?
Okay, so they're great. They're great substitutes if you have, like, I know there's a lot of kind of speculation on, is dairy not good for Parkinson's? So if that's the reason why you're asking for that, soy or almond milk are fine. I even use oat milk. The only thing to keep in mind with that is it tends not to have as much protein. Like the oat milk that I use does not have anywhere near as much protein as a regular milk would have, cow's milk. And just making sure that they're not sweetened, just that you're getting unnecessary sweetened. So almond milk, a lot of the times you'll have either sweetened, unsweetened, making sure they don't have kind of artificial flavors in them. Typically when you buy milk, it's milk. So when you buy some of these milk substitutes, sometimes they have kind of artificial additives in it, or sweetener. So just being mindful of making sure it's the unsweetened versions, and they are fine.
Okay, thank you. And our next question, I'm going to have trouble pronouncing this one here. It says, do you know anything about taking glutathione supplements?
Glutathione. I would have to recommend you talk to your doctor about.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then our next one we have, with the meat and carbidopa levodopa, how do you reduce the meat content 30 minutes to an hour before or after if you take the meds every 2 to 3 hours?
Ooh, Carmelita, can you unmute yourself? I would love to be able to talk this through with you.
Here I am. Yes.
Okay, hi. Okay, so
Hi.
let's talk this through. How many times a day do you take your medication?
About 8.
Okay. Okay, so yeah. So for you, I would definitely then try for that 30 minutes on either side. So, ooh, 8. And it's the carbidopa levodopa that you take those 8 times?
Yes.
Okay. What time do you take your first dose?
6:30 a.m.,
6:30 a.m. And what time do you take your last dose?
11 p.m.
So you really are taking them every 2 to 3 hours.
Yes.
Okay, so I would probably try for that 30-minute window then on either side. So that's only restricting you on an hour basically on either side. But I would talk that through with your doctor.
Okay.
It's obviously so much easier when you're doing 4 doses during the day or 3 doses during the day. So with the 8 doses, that is definitely a little tricky. But I would check with your doctor, but I would try to at least aim for those 30 minutes on either side, because there's some literature out there that says 30 minutes is fine.
Okay.
I would
Yeah,
double check that with your doctor.
it's definitely challenging.
Oh, for sure. That is definitely challenging.
I had one more question
Sure.
about sweet potatoes. Did you list sweet potatoes as being high in fiber?
They are.
List?
That is an option. And if you eat the sweet potatoes with the skin on, yeah, those are great options. And that again has some of those antioxidants in there.
Okay. In order to receive the benefit, you need to eat the skin?
You don't have to, but there, you get a little bit more fiber from those skins.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. So our next one here. Kate says, thank you to speaking to what I understand is a big FAQ for Parkinson's and diet. For example, fava beans. Could you also address the flip side of that? My cursor is in the way of the rest of the question.
Okay, I can see
that
on my
is-
end. I'm looking
Oh,
on
you
my
can see it.
end.
Okay.
So a lot. So I don't have an answer to that question because I am not certain that there is enough that you would eat that would be too much. I will probably refer you to your doctor on that because I'm not sure. The research shows there's a minimal amount in them, but I don't know I don't know at what level it's therapeutic. So do you have to eat like 10 bowls of fava beans for it to be too much? I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you. And then our next one in the chat, it says, if you are a vegetarian and taking fish oil supplements, do you want to take a higher percentage of EPA or DHA? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Can you
There
hear me
we
now?
go. Yes.
Okay, sorry. That's another one that I'm going to ask you to refer to your doctor on. Some of this, because I'm not a dietitian, I kind of get into, I have to stay in my lane. So for that I'm gonna refer you to your doctor on that one.
Well, so far that's all the questions we have in the chat box. Would anyone like to ask their questions live and come off of mute? Let's see here. Not seeing anything else in the chat.
And any other, you're welcome to email me.
Okay,
Happy to take any offline questions as well.
great. And if you all didn't catch Jennifer's contact information, feel free to reach out to me or call us at the office and I can pass that along to you. And just a reminder, today's session was recorded and will be available for later view on YouTube towards the end of the week. And so let's see, let's check for any more questions.
I just popped my personal email in there. Sometimes that's the quickest way to get me to respond. I don't always on my like business one. I'm not always the greatest about getting in there every, multiple times. And oh, I see. I bought ginger root and don't know how to use it. Okay, so ginger root, if you have like a little grater, this is actually, it's funny that you say that because right here, this is hot water with ginger, apple cider vinegar, and honey in it. So my kids will even ask me to give them tea with ginger in it because they know it helps their throat when they're having a bad throat issue. But anyway, if you grate it, you can cook with it. Or you can put it into, I will usually, if I steep it in a tea or steep it in a hot water, I'll then take it out afterwards because it's not pleasant texture wise or anything. But yeah, does that help? Again, grate it and use it in cooking. If you're cooking meat, you can use it almost like a garlic, or use it in a tea and bake with it as well. I'll make like a banana bread or something like that, and I'll grate up some ginger in it. So things that ask for dried ginger, you can grate up some fresh ginger in it.
Okay. Thank you. And Kate asked, are the slides available online? Jennifer, I will defer to you for that one if you'd like to share your slides.
If you wanted to email me, I am happy to send it over to you. Or if you pop your email in the chat, I'll write it down and send it to you. If I find a pen quick. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm happy to send that over to you. I can see some more questions. How do you use matcha tea? So usually matcha tea you can get in, I have it inside, or I don't want to disrupt it and go get it, but it's basically like a little green, it's like a green powder, and you just put it in hot water and make it into almost like a tea. And you can even put it in oatmeal if you wanted to, like cook up a batch of oatmeal and add, I've done that before. But it's typically used as like a tea. So matcha usually comes as like this fine green powder, and you can add some hot water to it and make it almost like a tea. Thanks. Oh, let me just write this down.
What's your email address again?
My email is jenniferyouse@gmail.com. I put it in the chat box, so I'll pop it back in. Okay.
Okay. All right. And Jennifer,
Kiana, can you leave the chat up so I can access that afterwards to send?
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch now.
I can send it out. If it's the same ones you sent to me, I just wanted to make sure that you were okay with
Oh, yeah.
sending it?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Anybody who would like that, you are more than welcome to it.
Okay, then yes, I will handle that. And then we have one more question here that I noticed. So Paul asks, when taking a supplement like multivitamins, which brand has the best absorption?
I can't really say which brand has the best absorption because I don't know that I really know that. I like Nordic Naturals as a line personally that I will buy. So if that means anything, but that may be one for your doctor as well. Like the absorption rate, that's just, yeah, it's just not something I really know. So that might be a good doctor question as well. Sorry, but again, personally, I like Nordic Naturals.
Thank you. All right, I don't think we missed any other questions here. And we will get these slides out to you all as early as tomorrow. And the video should be out as well by tomorrow.
Thank you
Let's
all
see.
so much for taking the time to join us.
Yes, thank you all.
Kiana and I were talking about it. It's timely, the start of the year. I think we all try to be a little bit more conscious of kicking off the new year with some healthy habits. So thank you all for
Absolutely.
being here.
Thank you all. And thank you, Jennifer, for giving all this good information to everyone. And let's see here. Let me just double check the chat box. Make sure no other questions are coming in. Rocky says, thank you for speaking with us, Jennifer. And
Absolutely.
then
Thank you.
Ellen says, thank you. All right, so we will go ahead and wrap up today's session. But as I mentioned, the slides will be available soon, and as well as the recording. But thank you all for joining us. And Jennifer, thank you for presenting. And I hope to see you all at a PAC program soon.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.